Senate Federal and State Affairs. First, we'll open to any bill introductions. I think Senator Reddy has one for us. Oh, wait, we need our reviser. There he comes. I just looked and Mike's coming in here. We'll give him 2 seconds to get his act together and catch his breath here. You ready to go, Mike? Just bill introduction here first, yeah. I think we're ready to go.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's a pleasure to be here this morning. I do have a bill introduction. I'm doing this on behalf of Richard and Diana Dean. The SR number is 3193, and it is punishment and criminal procedures and providing criminal penalties for sex offenses and related to sex extortion. That is the bill request.
Okay. Committee, any questions or objections to introduction of the bill? Seeing none, that is introduced.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Senator. Any other bill introductions? Seeing none, I think we'll jump right in. We're going to have a hearing on Senate Bill 474. And as we like to do, I don't like to set time limits on any one speaker. I'm going to do it in blocks. Today, I think we'll have time to do 20 minutes for the proponents, 20 minutes for the opponents. So any one speaker, just be cognizant of the speakers behind you so that you don't run them out of time. Before we get started, we'll have Mike Heim, our reviser, give us a bill brief on Senate Bill 474. Mike?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Senate Bill 474 amends a statute that deals with initiation of ordinances by cities. Just as a little bit of background, cities are the only local government entity that has the ability, where citizens have the ability to actually initiate an ordinance. This bill would delete a provision that currently restricts these types of initiative ordinances to delete administrative ordinances. What is an administrative ordinance is an issue that goes to court fairly often, and you have the judicial branch deciding whether it's an administrative ordinance or not. So I can get into more, but that's basically what the bill does.
Got it. Committee, any questions? Seeing none, thank you, Mike. We've got our first oral proponent is Eric Rucker, testifying as a private citizen. And Mr. Rucker, we'll start our 20-minute clock, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the time today. I am appearing as a private citizen. The first job I had out of law school was to lead a petition effort in the city of, actually the county of Sedgwick, on a charter ordinance that proposed to raise property taxes. And I don't think I shock anybody here that after leading our petition drive and after taking this issue to election, 81% of the people didn't want their property taxes increased. And so I have always cherished that experience and the workers that I had the opportunity to work alongside, and causes me to be here today in a private capacity. I'm appearing today first to express my appreciation to the Kansas Legislature for continuing to grant citizens who reside in cities the right to enact city ordinances as codified in KSA 123013. It is notable that this statute is celebrating its 65th birthday this year, and its language has been amended, to my understanding, only twice since its enactment in 1959. I mention this legislative history and its continual use throughout the decades because this tradition should give every senator sitting on this committee confidence that allowing citizens the right to propose city ordinances by petition and election has proven its worth. Ordinances have been proposed to address many public policy issues, ranging from where to build a city building or to how to tax individuals living in the city. To review, citizens of cities may enact a city ordinance by drafting a proposed ordinance, passing a petition among residents of their city, proving that they have gathered the required number of signatures from city residents, and then submitting the petition to City Council, where they decide whether to enact or reject the proposal. If the City Council rejects the proposal, an election is held by city residents to adopt or reject the proposed ordinance. Meeting all of these statutory requirements requires a great deal of planning, execution, and expression of considerable public support. Despite these facts, some city administrators and city councils may consider these efforts to be an intrusion on their power to enact ordinances. It is possible city legal staffs have even been directed to scrutinize city petitions in order to prevent these initiatives from being enacted. Sometimes the courts are also asked to determine the legal sufficiency of proposed ordinances, and this is where Senate Bill 474 comes into play. When a court determines that a proposed ordinance has failed to legislate but instead drifts into the area of operations that are taking place by the city, it likely runs afoul of the prohibition against enacting administrative ordinances. SB 474 simply eliminates the prohibition of enacting administrative ordinances while recognizing the courts will always leave the authority, will always have the authority to determine the legality and the constitutionality of any proposed ordinance. If KSA 3013 has not fulfilled its promise, it is because everything gets tied up in court when lawsuits get filed. And a lot of the time, as been previously mentioned by the reviser, it is because of the distinction between did the petition carriers pass an administrative ordinance or did they pass a legislative ordinance? The problem, as articulated in a relatively recent Supreme Court case, McAllister v. City of Fairway, is that even the Supreme Court has indicated that no single act of a legislative body is ever likely to be solely legislative or solely administrative. This SB 474 deals with. It dispatches the prohibition against city carriers of potential ordinances delving into the area of administrative ordinances, while their major thrust is to legislate. So I know that this is an area of some technicality. I also have been notified that, and the reviser can correct me if I'm wrong, but I've also been notified that this has a city home rule aspect to it as well, and would require, Mr. Heim will correct me if I'm wrong, a uniform percentage of petition signatures to be passed in cities of the first, second, and third class, as opposed to the current language, which dichotomizes 25% for cities of the first class and 40% for cities of the second and third class. Finally, I've had the opportunity to briefly review some of the opponent comments that have been made. Please put them in context, both my comments as well as any opponent that you hear, inside the context of 65 years of city petitions being considered by city councils across the state of Kansas that emanate from petition drives and, if in fact rejected, request a city election. The election, this particular statute has worked out exceedingly well. It has also worked, it has failed to work oftentimes by the initiation of lawsuits by the city, causing the petition makers to try and come up with enough monies to fight these battles in court. Now, obviously, you know that has some chilling effect. So I appreciate your time, and I certainly stand for questions when appropriate.
Thank you, Eric. We'll open to questions after the 20-minute period. Up next is Lori Sharp, and Lori's via WebEx. Can you hear us, Lori?
Yes, I can. Thank you, Senator Thompson. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
I am just appearing as a regular citizen myself. I had the opportunity to be involved in a petition in Prairie Village, Kansas this past year, and I want to express how difficult, how high the bar is to try to accomplish these citizen petitions. It took us a couple months to actually write the petitions, to get the wording correct, to send it back and forth to the county councilor, to get her input and make sure that we were addressing the issues we wanted to be addressed. And then we had to make copies of it. We had to get tables and markers and PR and to get the information out. And I spent many hours out in the hot sun in May, June, and July collecting signatures. We needed the 25%, which was only 3,100, and we got well over 3,900 people. People of all ages and abilities and disabilities came to sign these petitions because they felt like their voice wasn't being heard. And we submitted the petitions after, like I said, months of working on this, only to be found that our city council rejected them and ended up suing our group and objected to the whole process. And I just found it sad that ironic as well, that they sued our group and it's still in litigation, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they're using our taxpayer dollars to stop the citizens of Prairie Village from being heard. This whole ordinance is about the fact that the citizens, if they can get it on the ballot, they should be able to vote. And I, for one, would be okay with the result, just as long as the people get to vote on this. My husband is here. He was a participant, Rex Sharp. He's an attorney, and he knows a lot deeper level than I do. If you have any questions, he'd be happy to answer any questions. And I want to thank you one more time for the opportunity to speak on this important bill. Thank you so much for introducing it.
Thank you, Lori. And we'll have questions again. We're at about the 10-minute mark. Up next is Linnell Griffin, private citizen. Linnell.
Thank you, Chairman and Committee. Certainly appreciate this opportunity to speak in favor of SB 474. And yes, I am in favor of striking that administrative restriction regarding petition ordinances. I want to say that I am here with a spirit of humility and learning and listening and discussion, as I believe this is a wonderful opportunity to just make our government better. The administrative ordinance, as others have said, the administrative restriction is very subjective, again, such that if a city attorney or a judge didn't like the petitioned ordinance, there's opportunity to strike it down in court because it is so objective. I want to take a moment to just zoom out of a larger view of federal, state, and local government and consider the administrative arm of government. In that, so often lawmakers, and I'm sure you know about that, have experienced this, will pass a law, and then the administrative arm fleshes out that law that may go beyond the original intent of said law. And then that same administrative arm gets to judge whether people have violated what they have fleshed out, and then put penalties on whoever they say violated that. And so that administrative bureaucracy is something that the everyday citizen really is feels silent to be able to come in and have a say. So I just plead with you all to remember in any law that it must uphold individual rights. And again, every elected official has taken an oath to uphold the U.S. Constitution. And so when any law, whether petitioned or not, comes about, we need to really recognize whether or not that law honors natural law, honors the individual rights. And so I suggest that those in favor and those opposed, we may come together if we see this as, yes, strike that administrative restriction, but also, again, consider obviously that all laws should uphold the U.S. Constitution and individual rights, and that any petitioned ordinance I submit, a better restriction is that it limit government rather than expand government. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Linnell. We've got about 7 minutes left. We have 2 more conferees. Earl McIntosh is up next.
I'd like to ask this gentleman here who actually worked on a petition, if there's any time left, then I would like to speak.
Okay, so cede your time to Mike Sullinger. Okay, Mike, come right on up, Mike.
Okay, thank you for this opportunity. I do appreciate it. Good morning. My name is Mike Sullinger from Prairie Village, same city that Lori Sharp is from. And I'm here in support of SB 474. When I found out this matter was scheduled for this morning, I felt it was necessary to make the trip to Topeka and voice my concerns. I am not a paid lobbyist, unlike some who are here speaking in opposition of SB 474. I am a small business owner and a resident who cares deeply about my city and neighbors. I grew up in Prairie Village in the 1970s, then my parents moved away, but I always had the dream of someday moving back to the city and raising my own family there. That dream came true in the mid-2000s. Then during the summer of 22, when I witnessed the Prairie Village mayor and the city council at that time attempt to rezone single-family neighborhoods, which make up 90% of the city, I was stunned as to why anyone would want to make such drastic changes to a city that many in the Kansas City region tease us with the nickname Perfect Village. We were just ranked Zillow's #1 searched zip code in the entire United States, and that should make anyone question why the need for such a drastic change. A few months later, in the fall of 2022, I had a one-on-one conversation with the mayor at a city park event where I asked him directly, what studies or research have you been evaluating with their rezoning agenda? He repeatedly told me that if I followed up with him afterwards that he'd email me the information. I did follow up several times and never received a response. Then finally, weeks later, after I copied all the council that time, I received a short sentence back, 1 sentence back, from him saying he doesn't recall our discussion. I was shocked since our conversation was well over 15 minutes and he even pulled people into our talk to discuss. It hit me then. I was certain he was brushing me off, backtracking on his comment that they had any type of studies or research, and that they were evaluating, and that they were only pushing a national partisan agenda, not following their oath to the city, to the code of ethics by staying loyal to the constituents who elected them to office. When I saw other Prairie Village residents taking notice of their actions and forming a group to fight their agenda, which Lori Sharp was part of, I inquired if I could assist with their petition being circulated around the city, asking our city leaders just to give us the opportunity to vote on any rezoning measures and not just enact change on their own. I had banners produced and placed them near signature gatherings, events, and assisted with social media awareness. After the group successfully gathered the needed 3,700 signatures and submitted them to the county elections commissioner, our city then decided to sue us with our own tax dollars, making sure any rezoning efforts didn't go on the November 2023 ballot. You are our last hope in making sure democracy continues on in our city and the residents have a say in how our city's future is shaped. Thank you for your time here this morning. I do appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike. And we do have time for Earl. You've got about a little over 3 minutes, Earl.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm grateful to be here today to give my testimony on Senate Bill 474. I really believe in the lowest government possible to the people to make the best change in our communities. But I do want to mention, thank you. We appreciate the legislature giving us that opportunity to do a petition. because I think that's very essential. A lot of places don't have that, and I'm grateful we do. I'm going to skip through some of this because I don't have much time. But I believe attorneys and judges have struck down a lot of petitions just by stating they're administrative, like other people have said here. But I truly believe a lot of them that have been struck down can actually be argued with merit that they are legislative in nature. But let me give you an example. Cities in Kansas have used everywhere in the country, not just Kansas, use eminent domain to reclassify neighborhoods as commercial. Well, we have examples where people, they tried that here in Kansas, and the people gathered a petition. This was their community, their homes, they've lived there a long time, and they felt that they needed to do something to stop them from condemning their properties. And so they gathered a petition together, and then they were successful, and it was ruled administrative. And so they lost the places where they lived. And so I just want to point that out, that these administrative laws really can hurt a lot of people. And I believe every level of government that we have has become overly administrative. So I believe that any ordinance right now submitted by any town in Kansas would be determined administrative, or they'd have some other reason to invalidate the petition. Mr. Chairman, I appreciate being here. I encourage the committee to vote to make these changes on Senate Bill 474. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Earl. Yep. So, committee, we have also 16 written-only proponent pieces of testimony available to you. And again, that's in the S drive. Easiest to find it right there, also online. I'm going to open up now to questions for our proponent conferees. Committee, any questions? Senator Cluse.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And this question for Eric Rucker. Thank you, sir. I'm not sure that I've seen all your testimony in here, just the first part, but could you talk just a little bit more concerning the amount of people, the percentage, and then you talked about the city classes.
Sure. It is my understanding, and again, I desire to be corrected in anything that I might say by the revisor statute, but currently the law 12-3013 indicates that those individuals who seek to propose their own ordinances pass petitions equal in number to 25% of those who participated in the last city election. And so the last city election would usually be a general, which would be, the higher, oftentimes the higher of the two city elections that we're referring to. In cities of the second and third class, it is 40% of the total vote cast for those individuals who cast ballots in the last city election. So what it is that I understand is being proposed, even if you don't like SB 474, there is a home rule argument that cities need or have the right to expect uniformity in the application of laws. And so the proposal, as I understand it, would raise, not raise, it would actually lower all cities of the first, second, and third class to the 25% level and eliminate the 40% level as applicable to cities of the second and third class.
Okay, thank you. That helped me. Appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Senator Reichman.
Thank you very much. Eric Rucker, I must have you, since you're already there, up there. I'm trying to get my head around this whole situation, and the first thought that came in my mind, if the people that signed this petition, which 3,700 is a lot, and you don't care what it is in there, and they felt that it was not being used to their satisfaction, why didn't the people just recall and get the people out of there? Why do they have to come and bother us up here at the state? Thank you.
Yeah, the right actually emanates from the state legislature. Without the state legislature enactment of KSA 12-3013, there would be no right for individuals to utilize this mechanism to propose an ordinance. You may, in fact, to answer your question, Senator, the answer is that in these types of petition drives, the citizens themselves are offering up language to be enacted as an actual ordinance. And they believe that ordinances outlast public elected officials, and indeed the statute goes on to indicate that these ordinances, unless reversed by an election of the people, it came into existence as a result of an election, it can not go out of existence, these proposed ordinances that are adopted, for at least a period of 10 years, unless the citizens of the same city decide to go back on the ordinance. You're correct. The recall statutes are still in existence, and if they wish to take that action, they can, in fact, under the laws of the state of Kansas, do so. But enacting an ordinance and having that ordinance be part of the laws of your city is far different than simply removing a public elected official. That public official that comes in after the individual recall could have the exact same position in adverse to the citizens group. And I'm sorry, I hope I didn't drift too far afield.
Senator Straub?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not as familiar with the Prairie Village issue as some of you may be, but what is the status of that lawsuit and exactly who filed it? Did the city council or city commission file the lawsuit, or was it kind of at the direction of the city manager or mayor? Because I think we all know in most organizations, humans are herd animals, and whoever happens to be the one creating the agenda for the meeting or whatnot kind of has the upper hand in directing the direction of how things are going to go. So who actually filed the lawsuit and what is the status of it? Anyone who wants to answer.
That's a better question for Lori Sharp.
Yeah, I was going to say Rex or Lori Sharp is online, and I think they may have a better answer for the Senator. Rex, if you'd like to speak to that.
Hello, I'm Rex Sharp. I am defending that lawsuit pro se on behalf of the citizens. The case was filed by the city council against not only myself apparently for submitting the petitions to the county councilor, but also against PV United, which was one of the originators of those who were behind trying to gather up the petitions. So they filed a lawsuit in the district court of Johnson County. That case has now been appealed. There were 3 petitions. 1 was approved, 2 were not approved, and it's now up on appeal to the Court of Appeals. The briefing on that is almost done and will probably be completed in the next week. Almost $100,000, or actually more than $100,000, has been spent by the city council trying to prevent the people from voting. And you can imagine how much money and organization and time has been spent on the citizens' part trying to get this to the ballot.
Any other questions? Rex, could you, is this a situation in this Prairie Village case that is an administrative type versus a legislative type decision, if you could clear that up?
Absolutely. They're challenging, their entire challenge is based on administrative. Their argument is that not allowing them to rezone as they want to is an administrative issue because it impedes in some way their comprehensive plan. So whatever they can put in their comprehensive plan, they then contend is makes it an administrative issue. That issue will probably end up in the Kansas Supreme Court sometime another year or so from now, and another probably $50,000 to $100,000 of taxpayer money. And who knows what the outcome will be. I believe it's legislative. All they have to do is argue that it's administrative and the case can continue.
One last question. So it sounds like this case is going to transcend election time. So voting someone out of office, it sounds like, you know, you're rolling your dice with an election if you don't know what the election's going to end up looking like and who's going to be back on the council, whether, you know, this seems to be a good remedy for, you know, rather than waiting to kick somebody out of office and they may or may not be kicked out. I don't know if you could speak to that.
Yeah, so this is a much better situation because otherwise you would have to recall multiple city council members and then yet have another election for those people to then be replaced. Or the mayor, potentially in some cities, can appoint that replacement. This same thing happens in city after city. It's going on right now in the city of Westwood. The city of Westwood is involved in litigation with its city, in which the city council told them that if they didn't do what the city council wanted, they would be sued. Instead of suing the city council, oddly enough, or the city council, instead of suing the citizens, they actually sued the state of Kansas and Johnson County to try to verify what they wanted done. And the citizens then had to intervene to get into the lawsuit to have their voice heard, even in the lawsuit. So bottom line is, this is the best way to get an ordinance adopted, and the administrative angle is the thing that cities use to tie up all of this legislation to make sure it's not voted on. It doesn't much matter how you call it, whether you call it administrative or legislative. What matters is there's 25% of the people in the cities of the first class that really want to vote on the issue, so they should be allowed to vote.
Okay. Thank you, Rex. Seeing
Thank
no other questions, I will turn our attention then to our oral testimony, opponent testimony, and also we'll give a 20-minute block. First up is Nathan Eberline from the League of Kansas Municipalities. Nathan?
Good. Excuse me. Good morning, everybody. Would you mind telling me how many conferees we have here today? I would like to be judicious with my time.
Just 3.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Greatly appreciate it. Well, good morning. Again, my name is Nathan Eberline. I'm the Executive Director with the League of Kansas Municipalities. I am grateful to be a part of this conversation, and it's one I find to be immensely interesting. I'd like to highlight just a few things, and I'll kind of echo Mike Heim's comments earlier about the scope on administrative law. If you have my testimony on page 2, there's a quote from the Supreme Court that I think lays out this framework pretty effectively. Decisions which require specialized training and experience in municipal government and intimate knowledge of the fiscal and other affairs of the city in order to make a rational choice may properly be characterized as administrative. As you heard from some of the conferees, there's a squishiness to this issue as far as what lands where, as far as legislative versus administrative. But I provided some other specific examples of on the front. Zoning has already been mentioned, but where municipal facilities should be located, operation management, financing of citywide stormwater management, eminent domain authority. There's a few examples there that if you are going to expand the scope to allow for voter-initiated ordinances on the administrative front, you are delving into an area of far more technical content. And that raises more risks, both of ordinances that don't reconcile, that need to have follow-up processes in order to work with the other ordinances that are on the book. We've heard some of the litigious elements that also rise out of this. Those are some of the reasons why we would say that this is a realm that's better left as currently stands and should not be opened up to the voter-initiated side of things. I mentioned at the beginning that I find this to be very interesting. You're getting to some of the issues that go back to the very bedrock of this country. How much of the democratic principles are we going to have versus how much are going to be steered into the republic side of things? And there's a balancing act there. We want to have an engaged citizenry. I think it is fantastic how many citizens we have here today. This is good. This is the part of self-governance that is so important to have us be a well-functioning society. There's a reason why the founders, however, veered toward the republic side of things. We want to provide a trust to those that we've elected into the office. We heard some of the comments about how high the bar is in order to initiate an ordinance from the voter side of things. That's intentional. We want to put our trust in how we vote, the people that we put into office. And if they aren't doing what the citizenry wants, if they aren't reflecting the voters, then they get voted out. And that process certainly has, there are strengths and weaknesses to all those approaches. But we would maintain that putting the cities in the position to be able to see, here's our full scope of information. This is the totality that we want to be able to know what we're doing when we make our decisions for the laws that we pass. There's more knowledge. Each of you in your seats, you have more knowledge to be able to make informed decisions on the lawmaking power that you each possess. So it is with the city level. We want to provide our councils with the ability to govern and govern well. And this process opens up a degree of confusion, and it diffuses the power in a way that I would maintain is not a prudent step towards wise governance. So for those reasons and the others listed in my testimony, I would ask you to keep the law as it currently stands, and I'm happy to provide any more information that might be helpful.
Thank you, Nathan.
Thank you, everybody.
Of course, we'll open for questions after the 20-minute time period or all our oral conferees are done. Next is Amanda Stanley, City Attorney of City of Topeka. Amanda?
He is very tall. Thank you, Chairman, for allowing us to come testify today. I'll keep it brief. This statute has been around for a very long time. And I understand the frustration that people have when it's something like a zoning issue going on. But I would just ask you to think about the practical realities of what everything is when you talk about administrative. It sounds like something no one would ever do. So why would we be worried about an ordinance that defunds your police department? But that's an administrative function, is how much do we budget for a department? Or maybe your citizens are really angry about potholes, and I get that. We live here. But I often hear suggestions that we shouldn't be allowed to use cold patch, but they don't understand asphalt plants don't work during the winter. Like, they don't run, so you can't do asphalt. Cold patch is all you do. So there are so many technical things that a city goes through every single day, and this could open it up to anything. So that is why there should be such a high bar. And that is why occasionally city council say, this is not a valid ordinance, because it can't be changed for 10 years. Think about that. 10 years is a lifetime. How many other laws do we have that stick around without allowing the evolution of time, except by an election initiated by citizens, because your governing body can't put it back on for election. Otherwise, it can't be changed. So that is why the legislature in its wisdom has left this as legislative actions, things that are truly policy, instead of those day-to-day administrative functions. And so I would ask you to not take that part out of the bill and leave this law as it currently stands. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Next, we have Kimberly Spotty, Kansas Municipality or Municipal Utilities. Kimberly?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I appreciate the opportunity to be here before you. And much to Ms. Stanley's point, the municipal utilities, pretty much all of our functionality resides in the administrative element. And so our opposition to Senate Bill 474 is because Senate Bill 474 changes current longstanding statute to include administrative ordinances. And these are typically the governing structures by which municipal utilities are operated. we are arguably already the most accessible utility to individuals and ratepayers across the state. We are operated by a city council. Our governance structure is operated by the city council. Those individuals are elected either to the city council or to the Board of Public Utilities, certainly subject to election. And then running the utility requires a certain amount of nimbleness in the decision-making. When we think about Winter Storm Uri, or we think about the winter storm event that we had 3 weeks ago, many of our utilities operate what we call RICE units, reciprocal internal combustion engines. Those units don't run for extended periods of time, but when they're needed, we must be able to bring those online. In fact, it was those units during Winter Storm Uri that truly did provide stability across the entire SPP region. Those units alone, and falling under the administrative ordinance element, if there was a challenge to our ability to run those units, to bring those units online at the moment that we needed to bring those units online, that could cause tremendous amount of grid instability and create a real crisis situation, not only within one community, but within a multitude of communities and potentially well beyond. Further, the use of the petition process on the administrative side of things could be used to repeal certain building and safety codes that provide common standards for the community, including building codes, electric and plumbing codes, electric safety codes, and then, of course, various other regulatory and administrative codes necessary to protect the community as a whole. As you all know, and you've heard me stand up here before, time and time again, community-owned utilities, we own and operate a combination of electric, natural gas, water, and wastewater utilities. Providing the safe, reliable, and affordable access to those utilities is absolutely crucial. In doing so, ensuring that we have system maintenance and system stability is incumbent upon our job. So the prospect that any critical infrastructure could be further delayed, whether it is, or due to pending special election, could just increase the project cost or threaten the project altogether. And these projects are projects like reconductoring a portion of a transmission line or distribution system or distribution line, or a portion of a substation, or a water wastewater treatment facility upgrade. Or, I mean, the list goes on and on of administrative decisions that we make in order to operate our municipal utility, to provide that critical backbone on the electric, natural gas, water, and wastewater side. So it is for those reasons that we stand in opposition to 474. And you know, we would ideally like to, I mean, not necessarily bifurcate the issue, but I understand what's happening in some other communities. But I think that Senate Bill 474, the unintended consequence would be to rope us in and impact our ability to operate those utilities. So I'm happy to stand for any questions at the appropriate time. Thank you.
Thank you, Kimberly. Committee, we have 13 written-only opponents' testimony pieces available to you to consider. Committee, I'm going to open it up to questions for any of our opponents. Senator Straub.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is for probably Nathan Eberline, if you wouldn't mind. I believe that the U.S. Constitution holds supremacy over the state constitution and our city governments, for that matter. And under our First Amendment rights is the right to petition the government for a redress of grievances. So prohibiting any type of redress of a grievance would be in violation of our First Amendment rights. Would you agree?
I would not agree with that, but I would certainly defer to people who have more expertise on First Amendment issues than I do. People have the right to speak to those issues. That doesn't mean that that provides them with the method to which they can achieve the redress for those grievances. So similar, you could initiate more of a petition process for the laws that you have on the books for the state level, or you can choose not to. That isn't something that is dictated by the First Amendment. Same is the case for the structure that you provide for how we govern at the city level or the county level. This is the system that we have for the lawmaking process, and this statute that we're dealing with has domain on that. Those are separate categories for how you would package that issue. Is that?
Sorry, I guess it was still on. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So how many times in history since we've had this, this statute, I believe 1959, correct? So how many times since 1959 has this statute been challenged?
I don't have that information in front of me. I'm happy to do some research. I'm not sure that there's a central composite of claims against it, but I'm happy to do more research and provide it.
Okay, just my gathering of what I've heard today is this statute from 1959 is quite possibly unconstitutional. Thank you.
And if we could have research, please check and see how many challenges there have been to this, or situations where there have been lawsuits against citizens for attempting to bring this kind of an ordinance where it's been struck down on an administrative reason. We could find out. Mike, do you have some information on that? Mike Heim?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, there's probably been maybe 7 or 8 Kansas Supreme Court cases or appellate court cases, maybe a total of a dozen, but there's no way of checking how often this has got into a district court, for example. And I've got a summary of the relevant cases I can pass out to the committee.
It might be helpful just to kind of see where that gray area is. Senator Falscadillo, I believe, had a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So understanding Eric Rucker's position and your comment to Senator Straub just now, what would be those 2 major differences? You said they were in different categories to address this legislation, and how would then the municipalities that you're speaking for, how would it change their operational procedure?
Sorry, I was categorizing it from the standpoint of the scope of the body of law. So First Amendment practices versus the structure of how we create our ordinances. That's the way that I was categorizing it.
And then how would, if this bill were to pass, how would it change the operational procedure within the municipalities that you spoke of?
What it would do is expand the scope of capacity for voter-initiated ordinances. So again, cities would still maintain their lawmaking capacity in the realm of administrative ordinances, but it would also allow for the voter-initiated processes to also have some lawmaking power.
Committee, any other questions? I do have one. With regard to situations where you might have 1 or 2 disgruntled residents who don't want a building placed in a certain location or something like that, I can understand, that situation. But with this particular bill, it's saying you need 25% of the electorate who voted. So you're talking about a fairly substantial number of people who have a desire to have an ordinance change that they believe might be in a gray area between legislative and administrative. I can't see anybody going after the municipality, the power situation, because that is an area of expertise. But where citizens, I think, from the proponents are saying, hey, we need a little power over this, it comes into the zoning area. And if you got 25% of the people who decide they want to file a petition because they believe it's being miszoned, for example, how would you answer them with regard to just other than just telling them, you're wrong, we're going to do this?
Absolutely.
But that's where I see this being the issue, that gray area.
In the quickly evolving era that we find ourselves with, how quickly information can spread and how quickly ideas can germinate. Amanda mentioned the prospect of defund the police. Had this capacity been in place in the midst of that, this is something that could have happened very easily and quickly if you get those votes and put them in place to wholesale change how you have that funding piece. That's one example. On a broader scale, we have Missouri's passing of legalizing marijuana. It's very easy for ideas with incomplete information to just catch fire. And in any moment, you have, again, as I referenced earlier with the founders, this fear of rule by the masses, the mob rule. That's clearly not what we have in this situation, but it's easy to imagine and look at examples where that has been in place. This is where we have entrusted the local elected officials to govern within their realm. And the safeguard is that we put the trust within them to make wise choices within that scope.
Okay. Any other questions, committee? Seeing none, thank you. Senator Straub, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick Google search of petitions and history in the United States. This is more of a comment. It's not really a question for you, Nathan. But there were many petitions to abolish slavery. And potentially, had Congress just taken it to a vote of the people, we could have avoided the Civil War.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you, Nathan.
Thank you very much.
We will close the hearing on Senate Bill 474. Committee, we've got a number of bills outstanding that we need to work. We'll probably do that after turnaround. So if you want to take a look at the bills that we've heard up until now that might need an amendment, think about that. You've got the rest of this week and early next week to do so. Aside from that, yes, Senator Faucido, do you have a comment?
Mr. Chairman, if your wonderful assistant could just send us a list of those bills.
Yeah, we can. I will make a little list and have Sheila send it out so you can have time to consider that. There's no other business before the committee today. Thank you all for your work and testimony, and we are adjourned.